Have you ever wondered why chaos seems to follow you, even when you do everything right? What if your worst streaks of bad luck weren't accidents, but attacks hidden in plain sight? Could your survival depend not on fighting harder, but on detecting spiritual warfare before it strikes? Today we break through the fog of confusion. Witchcraft isn't about broomsticks and fairy tales. It's about subtle, strategic attacks against your energy, your relationships, and your destiny. Let's uncover 5 chilling signs that someone might be working spiritual harm against you. Arm yourself with clarity before it's too late. Strange coincidences, a streak of bad luck that just won't quit, people you love suddenly turning cold. You might think, maybe I'm just overthinking. But what if you're not? What if these aren't random hiccups, but signs of something darker, something deliberate? Witchcraft isn't just folklore or bubbling potions anymore. It's subtle, it's sneaky, it's spiritual warfare in disguise. Like that one friend who never forgets when you owe them money, but mysteriously vanishes when the check comes. In today's video, I'm going to share 5 unmistakable signs that someone might be using witchcraft against you. And no, this isn't superstition. These are patterns that show up right before your peace disappears, your relationships collapse, and your luck turns upside down. But here's the good news. You can protect yourself. You just need to know what to look for. So before we dive in, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because this isn't just another video. It might just be the spiritual wake-up call you've been needing. Ready to uncover what's really going on behind the curtain? Let's expose these hidden attacks together. Sign 1. Unexplainable negative life patterns. The first sign that someone might be using witchcraft against you is the sudden eruption of negative patterns in your life. Patterns so specific, so targeted, that logic alone can't explain them. Take the story of Thomas. He wasn't a superstitious man, a quiet, grounded guy in his early 50s. Thomas had spent his whole life building things: his business, his marriage, his reputation. He was the type of man who believed in effort. If something broke, you fixed it. If life got hard, you worked harder. That's how it had always been, until everything started unraveling. Fast, and it began subtly. His reliable stream of clients, gone almost overnight. Emails went unanswered. 2 contracts, both nearly finalized, fell through in the same week. Then came the tech issues. His phone would die during critical calls. His laptop froze during pitches. At first, he blamed age, burnout, Mercury in retrograde, anything. But things didn't stop there. Thomas, who had always been in good health, began experiencing dizziness and fatigue. Tests came back clean. The doctors said it was probably stress. Then his wife, who had always been his closest ally, started pulling away. Their conversations turned cold, tense. She began accusing him of things he hadn't said, hadn't done. The argument started out of nowhere and ended in silence. Even his dog, once inseparable from him, now refused to sleep in the same room. It was as if the life Thomas knew had quietly slipped into a parallel version of itself, one where nothing made sense anymore. And here's what's important. None of it had a reasonable explanation. Everything that once ran smoothly, his finances, his relationships, his health, collapsed within weeks. And the timing, always right before something good was about to happen. A new client call, phone dies. Romantic dinner planned, she cancels, crying, unsure why. Every blessing fell apart at the moment it was within reach. That's not bad luck. That's sabotage, spiritual sabotage. Witchcraft in today's world doesn't look like black robes and chanting in the woods. It hides behind smiles. It sits at your table. Sometimes it comes from the people closest to you. And while it may sound far-fetched, stories like Thomas's are more common than you think. The key is in the pattern. Not just the misfortunes, but the precision of their timing. The way they always seem to steal what you value most, right when you're about to receive it. A Stoic would say, observe, do not react. Marcus Aurelius believed that the first defense against invisible enemies is the power of the mind to see clearly what is and not be deceived by appearances. And this is exactly where Thomas failed. He fought harder instead of stepping back. He tried to fix problems that weren't his to fix, and in doing so, he allowed the storm to grow. If you see parts of yourself in Thomas's story, if you've watched your own life quietly dissolve in ways that logic cannot explain, don't dismiss it. Don't chalk it up to bad luck. Begin to observe. Start documenting everything. What changed and when? Who came into your life and what started falling apart after they did? The truth is, your life doesn't collapse without a cause. And while not every hardship is witchcraft, the ones that target your progress, your joy, your light, your breakthroughs, those deserve your attention. Because awareness, as the Stoics teach us, is your first and strongest shield. Don't wait until everything is lost. Pay attention while there's still something left to protect. If you found these insights valuable, let me know by commenting yes below. Your thoughts matter, and I'd love to hear from you. Sign 2. Unusual physical and emotional symptoms. The second sign that someone might be doing witchcraft on you is one of the most unsettling. It doesn't show up in the physical world first. It shows up inside you. It starts with strange physical and emotional symptoms that make no medical sense. Exhaustion, depression, fear, confusion, and no matter what you do, you just can't shake it. Doctors tell you you're fine. Tests come back normal, but you know something isn't right. This was exactly what happened to Amanda. She was 38, a yoga instructor, full of life, grounded in both body and spirit. Her days used to start with sunrise meditations and end with peaceful walks. But over a few short months, everything changed. She began feeling drained by early afternoon, so tired she'd cancel sessions and collapse into bed. Her limbs felt like stone. Her thoughts, once crisp and focused, became foggy and slow. People began to notice. Her clients, her family, even her dog, who stopped following her around like he used to. Then came the emotional symptoms. Amanda, once joyful and playful, began crying without reason. Waves of sadness came out of nowhere, heavy and cold. She became jumpy, anxious, afraid of places she used to find comforting, especially her own bedroom, and the dreams, vivid, terrifying, recurring. Always the same shadowy figure watching her, whispering things she could never quite remember, but always woke from in terror. She went to doctors, therapists, holistic healers. Nothing helped. Antidepressants did nothing. Sleep aids failed. Coffee didn't even scratch the surface of her fatigue. It was as if her energy was being pulled from her by something unseen, something cold, something deliberate. "It feels like I'm being drained from the outside in," she once told a friend. In times like these, it's tempting to question your sanity, but your body, your intuition, knows better. As Epictetus said, if anyone tells you that a certain person speaks ill of you, do not make excuses about what is said of you. Respond, "He was ignorant of my other faults, else he would not have mentioned only these." In other words, when something is wrong, face it. Don't hide. Don't deny, especially when the enemy is not visible, but is clearly present. Amanda began to notice something strange. Her symptoms would vanish completely when she was away from home. A weekend trip to Arizona brought her clarity, joy, deep sleep. She laughed again, but within hours of returning home, the exhaustion returned, the heaviness, the fear, and always after crossing paths with one particular person, a former coworker, a woman who had grown envious, distant, and strangely interested in Amanda's personal life. That woman had once gifted her a small charm, something Amanda thought was harmless at the time, but after everything, She dug it out of a drawer and stared at it with new eyes. That's when it clicked. And with that realization, she began taking her life back, cleansing her space, breaking ties, reclaiming her energy. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." What Amanda finally understood was that the attack wasn't just physical, it was spiritual. Her thoughts, her emotions, her very sense of self had been infiltrated. And that's exactly what witchcraft does. It targets your essence, not your body. It poisons the well from which your life flows. If you're experiencing something similar, don't dismiss it as nothing. Start tracking what's happening and when. Document the feelings, the patterns, the people involved. As the Stoics taught, observe constantly that all things take place by change. But not all change is natural. Some of it is forced, manipulated, and it's only through awareness, calm, sharp, fearless awareness, that you begin to cut the invisible cords wrapped around your life. Because in the end, the greatest form of protection is not fear, it is clarity. And once you see clearly, you can finally begin to heal. Sign 3, strange objects and arrangements. The third sign that someone might be doing witchcraft on you is one of the most overlooked and yet one of the most visible. It's the discovery of strange objects or unusual arrangements in your home, workplace, or personal space. Unlike emotional shifts or health changes, which can be doubted or dismissed, this sign gives you something concrete, tangible. It's what some call the smoking gun of spiritual interference. Across cultures and centuries, people have left physical items as a way to channel energy, sometimes for healing, sometimes for harm. In fact, in a study of ritualistic practices published by anthropologist Ronald Hutton, over 70% of traditional curses or spiritual attacks involve the use of a physical object, often hidden near or within the target's living space. These weren't exotic relics. They were everyday items: string, coins, herbs, animal bones, broken glass, ashes, objects that, to the untrained eye, seem completely meaningless. Yet to those who understand their purpose, they're powerful tools. Tools meant to bind, block, or weaken a person's spiritual protection. Modern witchcraft often relies on one principle: camouflage. It's no longer about pentagrams drawn in blood or bubbling cauldrons in the woods. Today, it's about subtleties. A small piece of cloth tucked under a welcome mat, an old photo of you didn't know was missing, burned around the edges and hidden behind a picture frame, a dead plant that refuses to stay alive, no matter where you move it. Even a piece of jewelry that suddenly feels heavy or wrong, draining you instead of adorning you. What makes these items significant is their placement. Doorways and thresholds, places you pass through daily, are prime locations. Why? Because they symbolize transitions. Energy shifts most powerfully where movement happens. Witchcraft seeks out those liminal spaces to attach intent. Other targets include the bedroom, especially under the bed or inside the mattress, because that's where you're most vulnerable, unconscious, unaware, exposed. The car is another favorite. It isolates you and yet moves you. Items placed inside, under the seats or in the glove box, can create a lingering effect of misfortune, distraction, or even danger. The Stoics didn't speak directly of magic or curses, but their philosophy warns us: do not take peace for granted. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." If something or someone is trying to block your energy, your progress, your clarity, it becomes your job not to deny it, but to confront it with unwavering calm and methodical awareness. These objects don't work because of the item itself. They work because of the intention embedded in them. Much like a phone receives a signal but doesn't create it, These items are conductors. They carry frequency, energy, emotion, direction. And when that energy is hostile, it can infiltrate your mental clarity, drain your physical strength, disturb your emotional peace. The key then is not fear, it's observation. If you've been feeling off and you've ruled out the usual causes, stress, illness, grief, start inspecting your environment. Don't just look, feel. If something in your space gives you a wave of discomfort or dread, that's not paranoia. That's your instinct. And instincts are ancient evolutionary protectors. As Epictetus reminded us, it is not things themselves that disturb us, but our opinions about them. When you shift your perspective to consider that your space might be energetically compromised, you're no longer at the mercy of confusion. You're in a position to respond. Should you find something suspicious, do not touch it with your bare hands. Use gloves or tools, and if possible, burn or dispose of it far from your home. Ideally in flowing water, or buried deep in the earth. And more importantly, cleanse the space with salt, with sound, with smoke, whichever method aligns with your beliefs. Not because it's mystical, but because it's intentional. Because action, especially when rooted in clarity, always breaks the grip of hidden agendas. Understanding this third sign is crucial because it offers physical proof that your life may be under spiritual attack. And in the face of such darkness, the most stoic act is not to panic, but to act with calm, grounded courage. You don't need to believe in witchcraft to feel its effects, but once you begin to see, you owe it to yourself to protect what belongs to you. Your energy, your clarity, your peace. Think about your own experiences. Have you ever noticed this? Comment yes or no below. Sign 4. Drastic changes in relationships. The fourth sign that someone might be using witchcraft against you is perhaps the most personal and the most emotionally devastating. It's the sudden collapse of relationships, the unexplainable breakdown of trust, the cold withdrawal of people who once loved you. This isn't just one friendship faltering over time or a romantic relationship growing distant. This is something sharper. It strikes fast. It spreads like wildfire. And when it happens, it doesn't just hurt, it leaves you hollow. Caroline never believed in anything supernatural. She was a therapist, pragmatic to the core, grounded in evidence, trained in emotional logic. But over one long autumn, her entire support system disintegrated. First, her best friend of over 15 years stopped returning her calls. Then a group of colleagues she had mentored for years began excluding her from meetings and lunches. She tried to address it calmly, but no one gave her answers. One simply said, "Things have changed," without explaining what exactly had changed. Messages went unread, or worse, misinterpreted. A polite email was perceived as passive-aggressive, a supportive comment taken as criticism. Then came the most painful blow. Her younger brother, the one who once called her his rock, accused her of changing and cut off contact. No fight, no incident, just silence, confusion, heartbreak. Carolyn began to question herself. Was she really becoming colder, more distant? Had she unknowingly hurt the people around her? She combed through conversations, emails, texts. There was nothing there. And yet everyone she had leaned on now recoiled from her, as if some invisible mark had been placed on her name. This kind of mass withdrawal, especially when rooted in confusion, is one of the most destructive signs of energetic manipulation or spiritual interference. In many traditional cultures, this was considered one of the darkest uses of witchcraft, not because it caused physical pain, but because it destroyed the human web of connection. Witchcraft in this form doesn't attack your body. It attacks your place in the world. It erodes the trust others have in you. It whispers doubts into ears, It clouds memory. It plants thoughts like poison ivy. Subtle at first, then overwhelming. When people are under this influence, their behavior doesn't feel like them. That's what makes it so jarring. You know them, you love them, and yet they act like strangers, distant, hostile, without cause, their words distorted, their reactions disproportionate. And your natural response? Either to lash out or retreat inward, both of which only make the isolation worse. The Stoics understood this. They taught that the opinions of others are beyond our control, and that suffering often arises when we cling to what's already slipping away. Epictetus reminded us, don't demand that things happen as you wish, but wish that they happen as they do, and you will go on well. But even more than surrendering to what is, Stoicism teaches us to observe without being consumed. If relationships in your life are falling apart inexplicably, pause, don't chase, don't beg. Start to notice the patterns. When did the shift begin? Who was around you then? What new presence entered your circle at that time? Caroline, after months of confusion, began to trace the changes back to a meditation group she had joined. A woman there had taken a particular interest in her. Flattering, curious, always offering gifts, crystals, teas, incense. What seemed harmless, even kind, eventually felt heavy. The charm bracelet she wore daily, it began to give her headaches. The group's leader grew cold when she started asking deeper questions. When she stepped away from the group and removed every object she had received from that time, something shifted. Her brother called her out of nowhere. Her best friend emailed. The fog began to lift. When you find yourself suddenly cast out from your own tribe without reason, when misunderstanding multiplies despite your honesty, when people look at you and no longer see you, consider that something may be interfering with the cords that connect you to others. These attacks isolate you, not by breaking your heart, but by turning others' hearts against you. The greatest Stoic strength in these moments is not to hold on tighter, but to stand back and see. To remember that who you are is not defined by the opinions of those temporarily lost to confusion. Their hearts may return, but only after you reclaim your clarity. Awareness is protection, and compassion, even from a distance, is the antidote to every curse. If you know someone who's struggling with this, send them this video. It might change their life. Sign 5, intuitive warnings and spiritual disturbances. The fifth and final sign that someone might be doing witchcraft on you is not something you'll see. It's something you'll feel. It's the soft pull of your gut, telling you something's wrong before your mind can explain why. This sign is the most subtle and yet the most powerful, because it doesn't come from outside sources, it comes from within. It's your built-in alarm system, the quiet wisdom that whispers warnings when the rest of your world insists everything is fine. You may have already experienced this. That moment when you walk into a room and the air suddenly feels heavy, like something unseen is pressing on your chest, or the way your skin prickles when a certain person speaks, even though they haven't said anything obviously harmful. Maybe you found yourself avoiding a certain part of your house for no logical reason, a hallway, a corner, a specific chair. You tell yourself it's silly, but your breath shortens every time you go near it. This isn't fear. This is awareness. The Stoics taught us to rely on reason, but they never told us to ignore instinct. Marcus Aurelius said, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." What he understood was that our inner world speaks in more ways than words, and when your soul begins to change color, when your thoughts turn dark for no reason, when anxiety blooms in places that used to bring you peace, that's not coincidence. That's a signal. Intuitive warnings often show up in dreams, nightmares where you're being chased, restrained, watched. Dreams where familiar faces twist into something hostile. Repeating patterns that feel like more than just stress. They feel like visitations. Our dream state, unfiltered by the noise of daily life, becomes a place where spiritual attacks are more easily detected. But these dreams are often dismissed. We tell ourselves it's just our mind playing tricks. Still, the body remembers. And if you're waking up with dread in your chest, or feeling like something followed you into the waking world, you'd be wise to listen. Many people under spiritual attack report another shift, a sudden disconnect from their spiritual practices. Where meditation once brought peace, now it brings discomfort. Prayer feels forced, blocked. Their sacred spaces begin to feel invaded. Their routines dissolve under invisible weight. The Stoics believe that anything that clouds the mind, that disturbs the soul's clarity, must be examined, not ignored. First say to yourself what you would be, said Epictetus, and then do what you have to do. Start by defining what you want to protect. In this case, it is your stillness, your spiritual strength, your inner compass. The worst mistake you can make with these intuitive signs is to disregard them. Don't wait for proof that arrives too late. Start writing things down, your emotions, your dreams, your triggers. Track when these feelings show up and how they correlate to people, places, or changes in your life. Patterns will form, and with those patterns, understanding. Your intuition is not weakness, it is not paranoia, it is the first line of spiritual self-defense. And when combined with the other signs, sudden misfortunes, physical and emotional disruptions, strange objects, and fractured relationships, it completes the picture. A clear warning that something is working against your peace. From here, your response must be deliberate. Cleanse your space regularly, whether with sage, sound, or salt. Carry stones that ground and protect you, like obsidian or black tourmaline. Visualize light shielding your body before you enter rooms that feel heavy. These rituals aren't superstition. They are centuries-old practices meant to restore balance in a world that often drifts toward chaos. And above all, remember, the enemy's greatest power is invisibility. Once you see it, once you feel it, you take back control. The Stoics believe that while we can't control external events, we can control how we respond. In that choice lies your strength. Let intuition guide you. Let awareness protect you. And let clarity be your shield. So how many of these signs hit a little too close to home? 1, 2, all 5? If your gut's screaming, this explains everything, don't ignore it. Because witchcraft isn't just some spooky bedtime story. It's real, it's subtle, and it works best when you're unaware. But now, you're aware. You see the signs, you feel the shift. And that, my friend, is where the healing begins. Remember, your peace is not up for negotiation. Your energy is not community property. And your intuition, that's your built-in security system. Don't disable it. If this video opened your eyes, don't just disappear into the algorithm abyss. Like, share, hit subscribe, tap the notification bell, and join a growing tribe of souls who refuse to stay in the dark. Because this isn't just about witchcraft. It's about taking your power back, protecting your space, and living on your terms. And yes, finally sleeping through the night without feeling like someone's watching you from the corner of the room. Leave a comment below. Just say, I'm reclaiming my light. If you're ready to step out of the fog and into clarity, you're not alone. You're not crazy. You're awakening. Let's rise together. Reflect on this. True evil doesn't always announce itself with horns and flames. Sometimes it enters your life quietly, through smiles, gifts, or unexplainable shifts in energy. A Stoic warrior doesn't panic when attacked. They observe, adapt, and act with precision. Trust your instincts. Sharpen your awareness. The unseen battle is often the deadliest. At the end of the day, your greatest shield against hidden attacks is not anger or fear. It's clarity. The unshakable ability to see through shadows and recognize what your spirit already knows. Not every downfall is random. Not every shift in fortune is natural. When you feel the pull of something unseen, trust your instincts. Document your patterns. Cleanse your space. Guard your mind. As Marcus Aurelius taught, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. You are not helpless. You are awakening, and when you see clearly, darkness loses its power forever.